fighting off liberal propaganda like an enemy of the Clintons.
Epstein didn't kill himself.
Patriotically Correct Radio with Stu and Rich.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Mojo 50 Radio.
And welcome to the Patriotically Correct Radio Show. My name is Stu. That's Richard over there. And it is a beautiful Wednesday. The reason I know it's Wednesday is because it's Trash Day, the 19th of August, 2020, the year that can officially suck it. Go to hell. Go to hell, rot in hell, and burn. I sound like I'm miserable. I'm actually not all that miserable. I seem to be doing pretty well this morning. You look like you're fairly happy over there, given everything that we have to deal with. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're listening to us and watching us, or how you're listening, or what hemisphere you happen to be in. Rich, how you doing?
I'm doing very well this afternoon. Thanks for having me once again. Day 3.
Well, you're walking on eggshells here. You and intern boy both.
I feel like intern boy some days.
Watching part of this DNC stuff last night, and I was getting a little bit frustrated for Democrats, because I know that there's a lot of good Democrats out there. You know that that's my viewpoint. I've got Democrats in my family. It's hard to admit sometimes, but no, seriously, I've seen level-headed, sound-minded Democrats in my family. And as I've pointed out before, we get along. We don't really get into it too deep. I think the Democrats in my family are not necessarily all about killing babies. So some of the more extremist stuff doesn't present itself. But watching these people last night, these canned speeches, Obama, Michelle, hers was pre-recorded the night before last. Last night, they tried to pull off this live stuff. And, Rich, it wasn't working out for them. You know that they're lying to you. You can see it in their eyes that they're reading off of these teleprompters. They don't want, they don't really want this guy. I don't think the Democrats really wanted this guy to begin with, Rich.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it seems like they had a couple speechwriters come in and just say, this is what you're going to say
about Joe.
I don't know how much of real views or real opinions that we're getting from these folks that are giving these speeches.
And what I meant by being frustrated is that these level-headed, sound-minded Democrats, they've watched their party be hijacked and taken so far off the planet to the left-hand side, and they're probably going, okay, if it goes just a little bit further, I may have to come off of that ticket. But the party line Democrats, the ones that, they're very stubborn, and they don't know anything other than voting blue. And it doesn't matter who the name is next to it. They're just going to vote that party line. I think some of those Democrats are probably looking at this and saying, I don't really know for sure.
Well, it might also be that they're at a point of no return. They've gotten so far to one side and to one point of view that they can't come back now, because then they'll really look silly. And this could be just their attempt of trying to save the party.
Yeah.
But it's already gone.
Yeah, it is. I mean, well, the party is dying, and that's what I meant yesterday when I was talking about the Democrats that are defecting, walking away, running away. The hashtag trends on Facebook and Twitter almost every single day. The Democrats are losing the unions. The Democrats are losing LGBTQ community members, LGBTQ. They're losing farmers, and now they're losing black people, who they've always counted on the vote of the black people. If you're a black person, it's almost you're almost a traitor in pop culture if you say that you might vote for a Republican. And anybody who's a Republican that happens to be a black person or a person of color is always called racist terms, Uncle Tom, or traitor, or defector. Because I have some common sense, I have to be an Uncle Tom. The first thing that people go to is threats of violence and racism.
Well, and one of the great things about this country is that you should be free to have your own opinion. And as we've discussed before, your skin color shouldn't make up the reasons as to why you have said opinion. I mean, hell, if you want to be a Democrat, but have some sense. If you want to be a Republican, be a Republican. You could even be an independent. The Green Party seems to be getting stronger. I'm sure there's some black folks that are going along with that ideal as well.
The Green Party, the Nazi Party, the party that wants to tell you to give up everything that you have, your cars, your trucks, your carbon footprints. I think that's how the Nazi Party started, actually, in Germany, was with environmentalists that then took over, and it was a very smooth transition into socialism, communism, because all that had to be told was that you deserve better. We're looking out for you. The carrot of a little bit more. You're doing a little bit better now because of us, and we're just going to give you a little bit more. It's evident in on the first of the month. Hey, we're going to give you this, and we're going to keep you here under the thumb of this political party. The largest, by the way, and fastest growing, most powerful current political party in the world, Black Lives Matter. They're an actual political party. And as we've seen, cowards from both sides of the aisle politically, cowards in elected positions all over the country, all the way from school boards to state government to county officials, and then up to the federal level, bowing quite literally on their hands and knees to Black Lives Matter members in the political groups. And now trickling down into law enforcement, as law enforcement has been significantly politicized, and chiefs and elected sheriffs, county commissioners, attorneys general, prosecutors are now bowing quite literally in the streets, laying down on their stomach in full submission with their hands behind their backs for these Black Lives Matter people. We've seen videos of Black Lives Matter people approaching white women in the street and saying, get on your knees and apologize for your whiteness, and they're doing it.
Well, not only just women. I watched a video maybe last week of a whole family. A mom, there was a guy and a gal, mom and a dad, and they had 3 young kids that couldn't have been older than 15. All of them on their hands and knees. There was even that video that we watched when we were working a couple weeks ago about the 2 white kids who were throwing the trash in the trash can in, and the black ladies were taking it out and throwing it back on the ground, and they just kept putting it back in because that's what they were ordered to do, while saying sorry to them. Sorry for what?
They're scared, and they're nervous, and they don't know what to do. This is something that we've never seen before. But the idea that we're going to bow quite literally or get on our stomachs, I think, is being rejected by the silent majority. And I think there's a lot of people who are saying, oh, hell no, I'm not going to do that. I think a lot of viewers of this show, a lot of listeners here on Mojo 50 Radio, iHeartRadio, and a lot of those who view us on the OpsLens app are saying, no. And we have a very strong base of left-leaning, good Democrats that listen to our show. And I've received some emails regarding that saying, we really appreciate the fact that you're honest and that you're not just in the tank for conservatives or Republicans, but that you stand for something. And to that I say, we will never apologize for being in relentless search of the truth. If there is a Republican or a conservative-leaning person who I don't agree with, I'm going to say that. I'll say it on my Twitter account at Real Stu Peters. I'm sure I'll be retweeted by @Correct Radio from the PC Radio Show, and it'll be known on our website at thepcradioshow.com that this is the stance that I take, and I will never apologize for that. Not in the face of a gun, not in the face of fear, not in the case of unreasonable demands like we've seen in Portland, where Black Lives Matter people are actually approaching local businesses and saying, you will now have a tariff. You will employ a certain percentage of non-white people, and that includes in management positions. You will pay a restitution, I guess you might call it, or a contribution to the political group Black Lives Matter every month, every quarter, every week, whatever it is. And should you not meet these demands, there will be repercussions, including violence.
And that's crazy. That sounds like some crap that happens in old Russian mob movies. where they walk into some bakery and say, you need to give me 10% of your weekly earnings, or we're going to let somebody burn down your shop. This isn't a movie. This is real life, and that is complete crap.
You remember Nazi Germany. This is what happened. We studied about it. You and I went to school at a time where textbooks still existed in history class. Textbooks that objectively depicted what happened in our American history and the way that we ended up where we are now. There is a woman running to take the seat of Elijah Cummings in the late Elijah Cummings in the most dangerous city, or in the top 5 of most dangerous cities in America, in Baltimore. Yep. And she's received some national attention for a recent campaign video. I was talking yesterday about black people still being enslaved by the Democratic plantation. I received some remarks about how controversial that was, but it's the truth. And this morning when I was laying in bed, and what I mean by that is you're enslaved as a black person by the Democrat Party, who tell you that the only people who are ever going to do anything for you is the Democrat Party. For decades, they've done nothing for you other than keep you in the ghetto, relying on your first of the month payment, offering you no alternative for good education, offering you no alternative for an opportunity to go to school and to do something better for yourself. But in recent times, namely in the last 3 years, a lot of people of the African-American community have seen the light and want out and are doing everything that they can do to get out of these situations and are prospering. We see that by factual numbers when we talk about the lower unemployment rate amongst black people and the higher employment rate for African-Americans. We see also a lot more African-Americans enlisting in the United States Armed Services of all different branches. And we see the level of morale in those neighborhoods coming up as family members are getting out, getting college degrees, getting high-paying careers, as they were juniors in high school, maybe even sophomores about that age when our current president was elected, and some of this reform started happening, including criminal justice reform that advocates for African Americans who are locked up for nonviolent crimes. This Kim Kasich, if I'm saying that right, Kim Klacik. I want to show you right now her campaign video that we're talking about.
Do you care about black lives? The people that run Baltimore don't. I can prove it. Walk with me. They don't want you to see this. I'm Kim Klacik. This is Baltimore, the real Baltimore. This is the reality for black people every single day. Crumbling infrastructure, abandoned homes, poverty, and crime. Baltimore has been run by the Democrat Party for 53 years. What is the result of their decades of leadership? Baltimore is one of the top 5 most dangerous cities in America. The murder rate in Baltimore is 10 times the U.S. average. The Baltimore poverty rate is over 20%. Homicide, drug, and alcohol deaths are skyrocketing in our city. Do you believe Black Lives Matter? I do. The vast majority of crime in Baltimore is perpetrated against black people, who make up 60% of the population. So why don't we care about our communities? The Democrat Party have betrayed the black people of Baltimore. If the politicians walk the streets like I do, they would see exactly how their policies and corruption affects us. But they don't want to see it. They don't want you to see this. Go to any Baltimore neighborhood and ask this question. Do you want to defund the police?
No.
No.
Absolutely not. I had 3 sons killed in Baltimore City. And I think if we defund the police officer, it's going to be worse than that. So no, I'm opposed to that.
What are you going to defund the police for? Why? How do you defend your city, your community? Families are losing people.
It's not just Baltimore. The worst place for a black person to live in America is a Democrat-controlled city. It's 2020. Name a blue city where black people's lives have gotten better. Try. I'll wait. Look at this. How are children supposed to live here and play here? Democrats think black people are stupid. They think they can control us forever. That we won't demand better and that we'll keep voting for them forever, despite what they've done to our families and our communities. Are they right? I'm Kim Klacik, and I'm running for Congress because I actually care about black lives. All black lives matter. Our communities matter. Baltimore matters. And black people don't have to vote Democrat.
So that last line that she said, black people don't have to vote Democrat, that is what I've been saying. And she said in this video, Democrats think black people are stupid. Rich, you're a mixed race guy. How do you feel about what Kim Klacik is saying here?
I think that she's right. I mean, there's clearly this movement of especially black folks that are waking up and realizing that they get all these promises made to them, but it only comes around roughly every 3.5 years. Once we start an election cycle, my question would be to all these folks that are diehard Democrats and any person of color, whether they're black, Mexican, Asian, anybody. How many of these promises that are made to minorities, if you want to call it that, or people of color, have actually been fulfilled? How many promises to anybody have been fulfilled by the Democratic Party when all these candidates who are running for Congress and the Senate, and even on the state and city and county level, county commissioners even, how many of these promises have actually been fulfilled? And I understand that, nothing, the Rome wasn't built in a day, right? I understand that some of these things that need to be changed aren't going to happen in one presidential term or a 2-year congressional term. But at least get the ball rolling. Talking about it in an election or in a debate or on some interview isn't getting the ball rolling. Write some legislation, get out and pound the pavement like she was doing in this video, walking through what did it say? One of the most dangerous cities in our country.
Yeah, it is in the top 5 of most dangerous cities in America, Baltimore, and that district happens to be the most dangerous district inside of the city. When Trump called it a rat-infested hellhole or whatever it was that he called it, of course, he was scorned for being racist because that's the go-to.
Yeah.
Is Kim Klacik racist, Rich?
Doesn't seem like it to me. It seems like she gives a crap about her community and wants to make things better. Now, I will say, no matter what party it is that she's running for, we'll see if she fulfills on her promises too. I mean, maybe this is just some epidemic within politics that folks say whatever it is they need to say to get elected, and then they get comfortable, and then they start again with the promises.
I think that in our recent history, the only person that I know of that has actually been in office to fulfill actual campaign promises has been our current president. Now, right. I'm not a torch carrier for everything Donald Trump. He's not perfect. Donald Trump has made a lot of mistakes. Has he lied? Yes. Has he said some weird things and stumbled over his words? Has he eaten crow? Has he put his foot in his mouth? Several times. But he's not a career politician. He's not polished. He hasn't been in Washington for 47 years like Joe Biden has.
Right.
Who then complains about the state of our union, the state of affairs in America, the systemic racism, the oppression that's continuously being perpetuated in this narrative by his party. But my question is, in 47 years, 41 of those as a senator and politician at many different levels, serving 8 years as the vice president of this country, the second most powerful man in the world, under a president who was record-shattering as and earth-shattering as the first black person elected president of the United States.
Yep.
You would think that this racial tension or issue, that this systemic racism, if you will, or this oppression, would have been priority number 1 for that administration. That administration instead spent 8 years talking about how horrible America was, apologizing for America, talking about white privilege. That's the first time that we heard about white privilege was during the Obama presidency.
Yep.
And doing absolutely nothing to fix the situation that they name as their number one issue. I think people like Kim Klacik are going to have a really hard time. And I'm quite positive that Kim Klacik is probably receiving death threats.
I'm sure, yeah.
We know this because it's indicated by coverage on CNN, for example, the Communist News Network, on NBC, the new Barack channel, on ABC, the All Barack channel, and on MSDNC. We've seen the coverage about Kim Klacik, and we've seen the attacks on Twitter by politicians who say that the body of Elijah Cummings wasn't even cold yet when she started her assault on Baltimore and on his legacy. I don't see this as an assault on the legacy of a politician who has failed his constituents for his entire term in an elected position and filling that seat. I see this as somebody who says, we need to wake up as a black people. We need to wake up as residents of Baltimore. And like she said, look around, it's 2020. Name a democratically run city in America that is prospering. I'll wait, she said. I had the same challenge yesterday on our show. I passed out my Twitter handle at Real Stu Peters. Correct me if I'm wrong on the record. I'm not seeing one.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's this. And so like this whole issue probably could spark a conversation about term limits. How many politicians have been in office for many, many, many years? Look at Nancy Pelosi, for example. Been in office for years and years and years.
Right.
And what change have they really made? Other than talking a bunch of shit every 2 years when it comes time to be reelected.
Right.
What change has been made?
This is the only time that Democrats talk to black people is during an election cycle. Kim Klacik is hitting the nail right on the head. Along with the attack on her for her stance and for her desire to do better for Baltimore comes attacks on people everywhere. Minneapolis looks a lot like Baltimore right now. Detroit, Portland, Seattle, Los Angeles. They're burning. We're going to talk in the second half to Bobby, who is part of the ownership of a family-owned Stop and Shop business on Lake Street in Minneapolis, that they were there on the night that the riot started in the wake of the death of George Floyd in the Powderhorn neighborhood of Minneapolis. Some horrific scenes that we have video of, some horrific pictures that we have from Bobby. Bobby has gone before the Senate and has actually spoken regarding this carnage and this terror that took place mainly by people who don't even live in Minneapolis. I would assume, and there is evidence to support the claim, that these people were paid to come from other places by George Soros and his people to cause problems in Minneapolis. There's also evidence that I have from a reliable source that our guest from the other day, Alexander Buster Deputy, who is running for Senate in a district that would represent St. Paul, that he is receiving death threats after being on our show for speaking out and condemning the actions of John Thompson, who stood outside of Bob Kroll's home and made some very divisive, hateful, racist remarks through a microphone and threatened the safety and the lives of Hugo residents, including minor children that were standing in front of the neighbor's house at Bob Kroll's place. This is what they have to go on. Violence, division, hate, and racism. Nothing else. Rich, the last word in about 30 seconds. You were talking about organized chaos on Lake Street, and by all accounts, it was organized. These folks had communications equipment. They moved like trained people. So when we talk about George Soros and paid rioters and protesters, this is something that can't stand. And my question to our elected officials are
what the hell are we going to do about it?
If you're listening to us on Mojo 50 Radio, if you're listening to us on iHeartRadio, stick around. We're going to be right back. If you're on the Ops Lens app, we'll be right back. About 2 minutes. PC Radio, more of us. Straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
We will force votes.
We will not stop.
Any Republican senator is part of the cover-up.
What the f***?
Impeachment.
This is madness.
The PC Radio Show with Stu and Rich. Back in a minute. With a domestic population of 350 million and 7.8 billion worldwide, we thank the 12 of you that listen to this garbage.
It's garbage, and I'll tell you why.
The Patriotically Correct Radio Show.
Eat me.
With Stu and Rich. Worldwide at thepcradioshow.com.
Yeah, we are worldwide and broadcasting to billions and billions of people all over the globe, wherever you are listening from. We thank you for joining us. Make sure that you get over to OpsLens and download the app. It's in the App Store, whether you have an Android operating system or iOS. OpsLens, OPSLENS. It's right there at the bottom of the screen. You can see it. There's their fancy little logo, the OL. And if you're listening to us, Mojo 50 Radio, iHeartRadio, we welcome you to the program. 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, right here, every day. The gloriousness, the conversation between myself and that guy right over there. That is Richard. And Rich, we were talking in the first part of the show today, which, by the way, was brought to you by American Pride Roasters Coffee. American Pride Roasters Coffee, it's bold, it's rich, it's tasteful. The only coffee that is guaranteeing you that they'll make you swallow. And we see there that Rich just did. We appreciate that. Rich, we were talking about Democrats being lied to. We were talking about organized chaos. We were talking about riots that are happening across the country. They started here in Minneapolis. They started here in the wake of the death of George Floyd, and then they started to spread throughout the country. We've seen CHOP zones and Chaz zones set up in Portland and in Seattle. Autonomous zones where police cannot go. It happened here until the police cleaned it up in Minneapolis. There is confirmed reports that police officers are being shot at with live rounds in the middle of broad daylight, not being reported to you, by the way, by mainstream media. We are seeing an all-out assault on law enforcement nationwide. We are seeing police administrations become politicized. We are seeing police administrators, chiefs, lieutenants, captains, sergeants, patrol supervisors on the streets bowing, quite literally, on their knees to a terrorist group called Black Lives Matter. We are seeing the carnage that has taken place, the devastating side effects of this, both economically, physically, and in every way that you can possibly imagine. There are staple stores that are part of communities that have been parts of communities for decades. Places where single mothers of 3 go and buy their baby formula. Places where people stop to get their fuel. Places where people stop to get wipes, to get food, to go to the deli, to bring home groceries that are now gone. They are in ruins. They are burned. A lot of these places, Rich, have decided not to come back. There are some large warehouses. There are some large businesses that bring millions and millions, billions of dollars over the years into the economies of these places that are now burned to the ground, desecrated, and gone. They're not coming back. I don't blame them one bit.
Neither do I. I mean, let's be honest. honest, man, you and I have traveled to many, many cities within this country. And in the work that we do, it's not always in the best communities. We're not going to Martha's Vineyard to do our work. So places like South Minneapolis and Gary, Indiana, Michigan City, South Bend, all those places, and you see what actually happens in these businesses all over the country in what people would say impoverished cities. And you're right. I mean, how many times have we been standing having a coffee and we see a single mom with her 3 or 4 kids walking in, and they're tearing up the joint, and all she's looking to do is get some milk and get some popcorn or something for her kids to snack on while they watch Paw Patrol. And there's these a-holes in these communities just tearing up the joint. And then something happens like George Floyd, has this incident while in police custody, and all this is gone. Meanwhile, this single mom of 3 or 4 kids has to, jump a bus, call a cab, an Uber, a Lyft to go 10 miles away to get her milk for her kids. Well, that is just absolutely ridiculous. And Michelle Obama was talking about in her speech about us not having empathy anymore for the people in which we are next to in our communities. So if this party and all these radical people have all this empathy for each other, where's the empathy for the families who maybe can't afford the transportation to go to the grocery store, but have to go up the street to the corner store to get milk? But yet we're going to tear it down and we're going to burn it and shoot at it. Absolutely ridiculous.
They were told to by their handlers. The violence was incited by leaders of these communities. Mayor Fry, for example, of that city in Minneapolis, immediately and without any evidence whatsoever, took to social media and got in front of the bloodthirsty cameras of the local media, television stations, mainstream media, and framed this as a racist murder before any evidence had come in and before releasing the leaked footage, which was forced. They had to release it because it was leaked, which explains a lot about what happened. And people say, well, that's neither here nor there. We need to talk about where we're going with this. But where we are right now is a direct result of not having access to the clarity of what was going on those streets of Minneapolis when Derek Chauvin, Tutow, Lane, and these other cops made contact with George Floyd. We wouldn't be in a position where we're talking about the devastation and the carnage that took place. Governor Walz, who refused help originally from the Minnesota National Guard and then did it late. Mayor Fry rejected the National Guard after Walz approved it. When they started to make their way into Minneapolis, Fry put up the big stop sign and said, "You're not coming here." I know a lot of those troops were redirected to St. Paul across the bridge, where they helped on University Avenue as things were burning to the ground. One of the places that was looted but wasn't looted immediately and were able to hold on to for quite some time because the business owners protected their place was the Stop and Shop at 1700 Lake Street. And you can get into the Stop and Shop from 18th and Lake or 17th and Lake. For full disclosure and to be candid, we know the owners of this store, both Richard and I do. In our business of doing fugitive apprehension, we are in that neighborhood quite a bit. We love the coffee there, the Mexican Chiapas. And we also, we value the contribution that Assad and his family contribute to that community. It is a staple store in the community. And prior to what was happening here with George Floyd and prior to the riots and looting, the family that owns the Stop and Shop was doing a lot of renovating, updating, remodeling. And they were doing this because they felt that they could better serve the community. On the phone with us right now is Bobby. Bobby is Assad's son. Bobby actually has a management role and I'm sure some co-ownership at the store. He is a staple there at the store, and we welcome Bobby now by phone. Bobby, how you doing?
How you doing?
Good. I understand that and I'm going to show some pictures here on the screen of your place that you sent over to me. We thank you for sending these. This is post looting post-riot. When you first were there, when this whole thing erupted, what did you guys do to protect your family and to protect your store in this neighborhood on Lake Street that was the epicenter of these riots in the wake of the death of George Floyd? What measures did you take to try to keep your store alive during this?
Well, originally, when we found out about the death and what happened before all the looting really started, we did end up having to close the store down because people were starting to get angry, and so we closed like a little early. We usually close at 1 a.m. and then we closed around 10 or 11. We went home that night. I believe it was the Thursday night, and then we did find out. Well, when we came back to the store in the morning, we stayed open, and then the looting kind of started going on, and we decided it's just not safe to even be open. So what we did, we ended up boarding up the store, and then a lot of people started, they started damaging the 3rd precinct, and they started attacking and throwing stuff at the buildings and stuff. And then we find out that they gave up the 3rd precinct, and that was where kind of the scare really happened. And we didn't think it was safe enough for having any employees or anybody close to us there, because I mean, if the police, if they can't protect their own home at the precinct, we don't really feel protected, and we don't know how we can protect our store if the
That's
police
right.
can't protect theirs.
That's
you
right.
know?
Yeah.
And so we decided to keep everybody home. It's not worth losing a life of either our side or people coming at us. So we stayed home, watched the cameras. Thank God, luckily, we didn't get looted then. This was, I believe, Friday. And but all these businesses around us got looted, and we were wondering why we didn't get looted at all.
Did you figure that out? Do you think you know the answer to that, as why it took so long for your store to actually be broken into? And as you're talking, I'm showing the video that you sent to me on my cell phone here of the aftermath. But do you think you might know the reason why it took so long for the Stop and Shop to be broken into and looted?
Well, I did hear afterwards, once we reopened, or once customers of ours, they didn't know we got looted, so they came to the store and they saw us sitting outside. Everybody was just devastated. They were like, "This is the one store we didn't want anybody to touch. This was we come here every day. We get our groceries. We play our daily lottery, whatever they get their Mexican food, like you said. You guys do." And I mean, everybody was just really, really upset. And so yeah, I mean, maybe the neighborhood people, they kind of veered away from our store, but hit other ones that they didn't really go to often, or it wasn't their daily stop.
Bobby, you make a good point. You guys do have one heck of a chicken stand there. But do you think that, or did you notice at all while watching cameras or anything like that, were there members of the community that were maybe trying to defend your store while you guys weren't there, trying to tell these rioters, "Hey, leave this place alone," or any of that kind of stuff going on?
I had one daily customer, became a pretty good friend of mine. He lives down the road. He comes in every day, him and his fiance, and he called me while we were getting looted, and he drove in the parking lot. And I told him, I was like, don't say anything. Don't try to protect it, because it's already, damage is done. Just be safe. Don't worry about it. We have to deal with it later. And
So would
but
it lead you
he
to
got
believe
out.
that the folks that did damage your family's store probably weren't members of the community in which your store services, right?
There was a kind of a problem here with the audio. Intern boy, again, messing this thing up. I want to repeat the question that Richard asked, because I think this is really important in case somebody didn't hear it. Was there any indication to believe that the people who damaged your store are not actually members of the community?
We watched the cameras, and the people who began the breaking in, the first initial people, didn't recognize a single face. There were probably 20 people plus in the beginning, 20 to 30 or 40 people through time, didn't recognize anybody, but occasionally we saw some familiar faces after the fact, after the door was broken through. Once it's easy, people see that we're already broken into, they're gonna come in. Right. I mean, people around there, they don't have much, so they don't have much to lose, and they just say, okay, well, door's open, we'll go in. But initially, no, they were not people from the community.
I've been in the store since this occurred. You guys have since updated. The store is absolutely beautiful now. I want to congratulate you on the way that the store looks now. I mean, it's really, you guys have come a long way. And I know that was the intent even before this, because it was showing by the updating you were doing, the addition of the tobacco shop there, everything from your employees, who are always just very, very nice people. And just for clarification for everybody listening, the neighborhood there at 18th and Lake, 17th and Lake, that part of Lake Street is known for prostitution. It is known for the open drug market. It is known for assaults, for sex assaults, for rapes, for homicides, for stabbings, for peoples with weapons. There is always a police presence on the block, and specifically at your store. There are police officers in your store all the time. The police officers, the cops that work that beat, the Lake Street beat, they know you. They know your father, they know your mother, they know you, Bobby, and they know all of your employees. You're friendly with the police, you're friendly with us when we come in there, and we appreciate that. We enjoy being there. The question that I have...
We appreciate you guys.
For sure. The question that I have is, a result of this death of George Floyd, there has no secret been the call to defund or disband the police. Do you think that kind of rhetoric is helpful? And do you think that if the police are defunded or disbanded, that will actually help the neighborhood, like the elected officials, like the mayor in that city, Jacob Fry, are saying that it will help? Will it make people safer to have less police on the street in the neighborhood where your store is?
I don't necessarily think so, mainly because, I mean, a lot of these calls that the police get, these are things that, I mean, now no regular civilian will want to deal with, it's not, the police, they get a lot of different calls, some good, some bad. And I mean, a lot of these civilians, I mean, how can we really take charge and take care of things? I think it would just become like more of a bloodbath, if not necessarily a bloodbath, but that's kind of...
No, I think you're right. I think it is.
But I mean, it wouldn't go well, I don't think, because people are going to deal with problems the wrong way. There will probably be more civilian shooting at each other, which is not what we want either. So I don't think defunding is the best idea. I mean, yeah, there'll have to be changes, maybe different, I don't know necessarily everything that would need to be changed, but I mean, there'll have to be some sort of change, some sort of maybe fixing the system somehow, but defunding, I don't think that would work. It would just become more of a disaster, and everybody else fighting against each other instead. So yeah, I I don't really think so.
On the phone with us right now is Bobby. His family owns the store that we're showing you on the screen right now. It's the Stop and Shop down at 18th and Lake, 17th and Lake. There's a tobacco shop there. It's a community staple in the neighborhood. People come and go from there all the time. Very limited police calls there, actually. You guys do a very good job. You've hired security there in the evening times, and now I believe have security around the clock. You've updated your surveillance footage. You're doing everything that you need to do to be responsible business owners there, and for that I commend you. You were up speaking to the state Senate, am I right?
Yep.
Okay, and when you were testifying before the Senate here in Minnesota, they were asking you, what were they asking you?
I mean, mainly the whole point of that hearing, it was to, on the business owner's standpoint, how we got affected, what happened, what we saw, problems we saw, positives we saw, like positive outcomes we saw from it. And so, I mean, a lot of it was just informative. They didn't really force any I guess, trying to pick sides or nothing. It was mainly just to hear about how we got looted, what we had to do to feel safe, to protect our business. Because, I mean, after we got looted, we stayed there 24/7 for 2 weeks or more, probably about 2 to 3 weeks. We stayed out there. I mean, I slept in the shed. We had air mattresses and all that. We'd go home during the day to catch a break, come right back before it got busy out there. But, I mean, it was mainly just to see how we really got affected and to show the city what we had to deal with as business owners, and kind of to prove a point why, like, if this happened to us, why should we even open back up? Because who knows, it might happen again now if it can't stay under control.
So Bobby, did you get the idea while in there speaking or in front of the Senate that they were going to do anything to help you? Was there any plan or any talk of how can we help you and other business owners in your community feel safe, rebuild, reopen? I mean, this is not just a store for a mom to come get her milk, but also a way for you and your family to put food on your own table. So I believe that part of that discussion probably should have been, how can we help you to feel safe to reopen your store? And I'm guessing that defunding the police and making them go away is not something that would be helpful.
Right. And I mean, yeah, this store has been our livelihood. We've been here for 17 years, and I mean, we're back up and running. So hopefully more years, you know. And yeah, well, they did kind of ask about the defunding of the police. I wasn't a part of the answering of that question. But yeah, we did. A guy did state he doesn't think it's the best idea, and I think he mainly kind of just said how changes could, or maybe they could make some different changes in the system or something.
It's very well known that if you walk into these neighborhoods anywhere across the country that are on fire, that are being looted, that are being robbed, that are being burned, it's very well known that if you actually ask community members, people that live there, of any color, specifically in predominantly black neighborhoods, if you ask the black residents about defunding the police or getting rid of the police or disbanding or abolishing the police, the answer is, are you nuts? How does that help? How does less police help make me safer? We were watching a video earlier from a candidate who's running for an elected position in Baltimore, and as part of her video, she was airing some of these testimonials, and I don't think that you heard that, but Kim Klasick, her production staff at very minimum, met with these people, and one guy said, I've had 3 sons murdered in this city. What the hell would I want to get rid of the police for? And so I think I'm hearing from you, Bobby, and don't let me put words in your mouth, but I'm hearing that you don't think that's the logical option, and that you agree that the police are there to do a good thing, and that we're not supposed to judge, indict, or convict everybody wearing a gun and badge based off of one incident, should he be proven guilty of any negligence or wrongdoing.
Right. And I mean, yeah, there's there's bad cops and there's great cops, and I know lots of great cops from meeting them through the store. I mean, I have a lot of them, their cell phone numbers. I mean, we stay in touch with you guys, and you guys come by. We talk for, I mean, sometimes it turns into an hour if they're not on duty or anything. And so, I mean, we've built great relationships, and it sucks that some that don't do the right thing, it sucks that the good ones have to deal with the consequences. And I mean, I've heard some of the cops are thinking of retiring early because it's just not what it's not what they want to deal with right now, and they're getting attacked for no reason now. People see them driving, and they'll throw stuff at their cars for no reason. They'll just yell cuss words at them, and it's just ridiculous. And so they just don't feel comfortable being in public wearing their uniform, which is a bad thing for someone who's supposed to protect the community, and the community is not really feeling like the community is just attacking them instead. So
it's clearly a quite interesting trickle down effect if we really stop and think about it. You know, the police are getting attacked for doing their job, and in that, then they're going to retire or PTSD out, they call it, which rightfully so. I wouldn't want to go to work and get stuff thrown at me and called names and all this other stuff all the time when my goal is to protect a community that hates me anyway. And then because of that, the numbers go down. There's less police on the streets, and people like you, Bobby, and your family depend on police protection when and if you need them. But now that we're going to be losing, what did Stu in Minneapolis said, they're losing 150, 200 cops or something like that.
At very minimum, we're looking at 100 to 200 cops, and there's a mass exodus going on. And like I said, and like you said, Rich, I mean, there's nobody to blame here other than the elected politicians that have put them in this position. They forced them to give up their precinct. The whole thing was handled inappropriately from the very beginning. The first person that broke a law should have been arrested, and the use of force, whatever was necessary to stop this from happening, should have been stopped. And had it been stopped here in Minneapolis, could have potentially saved the rest of the country. Bobby, before I let you go here, I just want to hear, what is the climate like now on Lake Street in Minneapolis as you're down there working? I know that you're there working now. As you had told me earlier, you were working with a customer down there. What is the environment like there now amongst community members that are there? Are they happy that you're back open? Is there still a bunch of cursing the police down there, or has that started to lighten up as well?
Yeah, people are very happy. We're back open, and I mean, originally when we did first open, I mean, everybody was just thanking us for opening so fast, because I mean, we did a partial open. We didn't have everything done. All the construction wasn't done, but we can't just let it sit. If we can get some stuff in that store and be able to provide for the people, then I mean, that was our priority. As soon as we got looted and we came to the store, we made plans to. We already had the community was helping clean up the store before we even got there. They saw the door was open. They went in there with brooms and dustpans, and they started cleaning everything up before we got there. So I mean, the community is thankful for us being back open, because I mean, my cousin, he owns a Stop and Shop as well, just a mile or so down the road, right across from the 5th Precinct. He's still closed. That whole building. Almost all the stores in that building started on fire, so they have to do basically a big destruction, and so he's still closed. He won't be open for 6 months to a year. And
absolutely devastating. Bobby, the part owner and family of a family-owned store down there on Lake Street. You've been through a lot, and we thank you for being here.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. And we'll probably be seeing him maybe even later on this afternoon. These are the horrific stories that come out of cities like Minneapolis. I was messaging with some business owners of a coffee shop, of a restaurant in Portland last night. We're going to have them on the show as well. These autonomous zones, these places where we are told the police are not allowed, now that the paid people have left these cities, like Minneapolis, for example, you don't see that going on as much anymore. I have been down there and have had no problems with community members while wearing a gun and a badge. That just shows you that this is coming from somewhere else, and it's not coming from within. Rich, your last word of the day.
Wow, that was powerful to hear from Bobby. And you're right, Stu. We haven't had any problems with community members. In fact, community members thank us and thank the police officers that they see for being out in the community.
Yeah.
So I think we really need to figure out where all this crap is coming from and stop it.
Police always on this show. For Richard and for myself, Stu Peters, thank you for being here. Mojo 50 Radio, iHeartRadio. Make sure that you get over there and download the OpsLens app if you have not already. We will see you tomorrow for more Patriotically Correct Radio.
Get to know them, grow to love them, love to hate them.
Son of a bitch.
Hey, I will not permit you to talk that way. Hey, put it down.
No.
Crazy. That's right. Come on, not in front of your friends. Come on.
I'm not afraid of you.
Stewie and Richie. PC Radio.